Hey guys, I wanted to come out here to the park today and shoot a quick video regarding the recent announcement for the Sony A9 III. Hopefully the audio isn't too bad in this video. I have this big tree above me here and the leaves are ruffling a bit with the wind, so unfortunately I don't have a blimp or anything, but we're gonna run with this. So yeah, the Sony A9 III just got recently announced, and I hate to say the word incredible, but it is really an incredible camera. It's obviously not geared for somebody like me who does pretty basic static shots and doesn't do any sort of high-speed content. It's really geared towards photojournalists, sports photographers, and maybe even high-end wedding photographers. The fact that it's $6,000 is way out of my price range as an enthusiast, but it is incredible to see what Sony has released. I have been a little critical of some of Sony's releases recently, with more so their affordable cameras. Oh, here comes the wind. We'll give it a second. Hopefully it's not too bad, but I think it's about to die down. Yeah, so the Sony A9 III has the very first global shutter in a full frame mirrorless camera, which is insane. And I think we all knew it was coming. It was pretty obvious that a global shutter needed to come into a mirrorless camera at some point. I think a lot of people were predicting this. It's so freaking fast. Based off of the specs that they highlighted within this announcement, the fact that now you don't even need to worry about high-speed sync. So this is more for photographers specifically, but you don't have to worry about high-speed sync because you can go down to 1/80,000th of a second, and there's no limitation with flash sync speed. So that's crazy. I think that's awesome if you're like a high-end portrait photographer or wedding photographer. And then the 120 frames per second blackout free shooting, that's insane. I would never need something like that. I think it's awesome. I know that this isn't really geared towards filmmakers or content creators. That's not obviously who this camera is meant for. It is interesting that they announced this camera so early for when it's actually going to get shipped. It's coming in 2024, but I think that's because of Paris 2024 and the Olympics, because really high-end sports photographers is really the core of what this camera is intended for. So you'll see a lot of people online talking about, or I should say content creators and people who are getting a nice little incentive from talking about this camera, saying how it's a complete game changer. And to some degree it is, for sure, like within that part of the industry. But for like everyday content creators, it's not going to be a big deal because it's going to be a while before we see some of these higher end features trickle down into other Sony mirrorless bodies or even other competitors too. Like, I don't envision Sony putting a global shutter into like a Sony A7 IV. I'd be amazed if I'd be more impressed if they did that. I seriously doubt that's ever going to happen anytime soon with any of these more affordable cameras. Maybe in a couple years from now. But it is awesome that they definitely cleared this threshold, or I guess maybe set this bar in terms of what other competitors need to compete with now. So it'll be interesting to see what Canon and Panasonic and Nikon do. I think Panasonic might put a global shutter into the future S1H Mark II. Don't quote me on that. I know everybody got upset at me when I said that the Panasonic S1H Mark II was coming in a previous video. I know that the S1H Mark II is not really geared more towards sports photographers, but filmmakers definitely could benefit from having a global shutter. I mean, it would be insane if it did. I don't know if it will happen, but the camera that I do think in Sony's lineup that could get a global shutter trickled down to it is the future iteration of the Sony FX3. That camera could be positioned to have a global shutter because a lot of filmmakers who are doing like really high-speed content creation or like promotional, I think of the thing that I envision is like boxing promo videos, or like a high speed like Nike or Adidas ad where you're like, you know, shifting the camera around and that sensor is moving around so fast that those are the types of I guess creators that I think would really benefit from a global shutter, especially like if you look at the red Komodo. I know that's not a full frame camera, but that has been used in a lot of like high-speed commercial shoots and things of that nature. So yeah, the Sony FX3 Mark II or whatever they call that could be a camera that I could see a global shutter being put into. So for somebody like me, I think that's the most exciting thing about this announcement. I think it's the fact that, okay, Sony cleared this by getting a global shutter into a mirrorless camera now. So now what does that say for all of the future cameras moving forward? Hopefully my highlights aren't too bad in the shot, but yeah, it looks okay. So anyway, the thing that I really do like about the A9 Mark III is Sony did change the boxy style of the body. I know this is a very small detail, but ergonomically, I've always thought the Sony mirrorless cameras are a little iffy, but it is nice to see that they kind of tapered off those corners a little bit and maybe rounded them more so. It does have that new 4-axis hinge LCD screen that the Sony A7 III got. I think most mirrorless cameras moving forward should have that, or not even most, all of them should, to be honest with you. I just know they won't put them in every body. But yeah, it's really exciting to see the direction that Sony's going, and I really do hope that some of these features do trickle down into other bodies. But like I said, I don't think we're going to see a global shutter anytime soon. The only camera that I do think that will come to is maybe the follow-up to the Sony FX3. I know a lot of filmmakers and content creators are now like thinking, okay, Sony, you managed to put a global shutter into a full frame camera. Now, do what you did with that new Sony cinema camera. I think it's called the Bravado. I forget what it's called now. They proved that you can put both an internal ND filter and IBIS into a camera. Now, it is a little bit bigger of a body because it's not like a compact mirrorless camera, but it is possible from an engineering perspective, from what it sounds like. So I know a lot of people are really hoping that Sony or one of the other competitors out there, maybe Panasonic, maybe Canon, puts both an internal ND filter and an IBIS system in one of these bodies. I've always thought that if they were going to do it, maybe you'd have to turn one off and that would enable the other. But it seems like it is possible now. I think for me, that would be even more exciting than the global shutter in a camera. And I know I'm getting carried away with this, but it is pretty cool to conceptualize these features or enhancements that these companies could produce. I mean, we're definitely lucky to be able to have access to these great cameras in 2023 going into 2024, and I'm more than happy with the S5 Mark II. I will say I'm even impressed with my iPhone 15 Pro Max that I just got. And I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here because we're supposed to be talking about the A9 Mark III here, but it is insane like what is out there today. And I know I've been a little negative in the past with some of Sony's latest releases and their more affordable cameras, or when I say affordable, I mean like the Sony A7 RC or CR and the Sony A7C Mark II and the Sony A67. Oh, here we go. More wind. Give it a second. Maybe it's not too bad. I don't know. It doesn't sound as bad as last time. But yeah, anyway, very excited to see this announcement, and I really am curious about the direction that Panasonic and Canon are going to go. Now that Canon, I mean, just had a recent innovation too with that 24-105 f2.8 lens, which looks like a monster of a lens. I guess it's parfocal as well, and it's one of the first Canon RF lenses that has an actual iris ring on it, which is pretty insane. It's very cool to see these products get announced and brought to the market. Things that I would like to see brought into some of these future cameras moving forward in terms of innovation and enhancements. Obviously, this is just my wish list of things. I'm thinking of the future of iPhones and how innovative Apple is with their camera technology and their mobile devices. I really would like to see some of these features, like being able to wirelessly transfer files over like a Wi-Fi connection. Like I'm able to just airdrop my iPhone video from like the Blackmagic mobile camera app right over to my M1 Mac Mini. Being able to just have some of those abilities that are pretty exclusive to mobile devices. Like obviously you can't like just share stuff right to social media. At least I don't think there's a camera out there, a mirrorless camera, that has that ability. And maybe I'm asking for a lot when I say this, but I think we're entering in a period where, it's a little gusty. It's honestly though, it is beautiful out today. Like even though I'm pretty cold right now, I don't know why I grabbed my... Anyway, I'm going off on a completely different direction than this video was supposed to be intended to be. Yeah, I really would like to see some enhancements that are more geared towards just conveniences like that we have with our phones, and sort of that integration of functionality in future mirrorless cameras. And I know the A9 Mark III just got announced, and I'm talking about stuff related to iPhones, but we're in an age where like everybody and their grandma has a camera, you know, like within their iPhone. Just having some of that functionality that could really set apart these cameras, because I think it's just becoming more and more convenient to use your mobile device. Obviously the cameras aren't up to par with like the sensors in, like, for example, the Panasonic S5 Mark II, but they're getting up there. They're getting very close in the artificial lighting and just some of these conveniences that really go a long way when you're creating content for, you know, the internet, TikTok, Reels, whatever. I mean, I don't really do much of that. I probably should have a TikTok, but maybe I will. Maybe I will at some point. I hope you guys like this video. I know I went off in a couple of different directions. It's really exciting stuff, and I can't wait to see the future of these cameras moving forward into 2024. I'd love to know your thoughts on the A9 Mark III announcement and what you guys think of the camera overall. Anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next one.